Okay, and then we've got our live stream is now live. Josh, you can call the meeting to order at your convenience.
All right. I will call the meeting to order at 6 o'clock. And first order of business is any public comment.
We did not receive any public comments from anyone via email or on the webpage or via anything else. So no public comment from anyone that we are aware of tonight.
Okay. And we'll go to approval of minutes. Everybody have a chance to look at those?
Yes.
Okay. Were there any questions on those?
Nope.
Nope, we're good.
Okay, if somebody would like to make a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the April minutes.
I'll second that.
Okay. All in favor?
Jennifer says aye.
Krista says aye.
Matt, aye.
Josh, aye. Okay. Next, treasurer's report.
Okay, Matt, I've got it up on the screen. You should be able to see it.
Yeah, can you go back? Can you go back to the first
apparently
slide?
I went to the wrong. Hold on a second.
Two slides back.
Hold on. Let's try this again. There we go.
Okay, so this is compared to March. So we basically held our ground March to April. We were just 13K favorable at the end of March, 12K favorable end of April. So small difference, like I said, holding our ground. And if you look the revenue picture, next slide, you'll see that the levy revenue almost completely offset the drop in program revenue that we faced. So you could see that we ended up net 5K unfavorable when we were about 5K favorable last month. So we lost ground on the revenue side. But we accounted for that if you look at the next slide on the expense side. So expense control across the board, put us almost 18,000 favorable. And that's the offset compared to that 5K negative on the revenue side. The last slide shows fund balances are good. As you could see in that first slide now, M&O is going up this phase of the year. So as long as things stay as we expect, we should be able to hold our ground relatively closely. And if we can stay on this, we'll talk about park openings and program openings and that kind of thing. We can get back on a more regular schedule later in the year. I think we'll be okay. Any questions on this portion before we look at vouchers?
No.
Okay, then you should have the voucher list. You want to go over any changes, Doug?
Yeah, there was just one addition. We had a refund for Ultimate Frisbee class, $150 went to Melinda Gardner. That was the only change that I saw from the prior that was identified.
Okay. Anybody else have any questions on specific voucher line items?
No.
Okay.
No, I don't.
I'll make a motion to approve the vouchers for 58, 515, 47 as shown.
Somebody want to second that motion?
I will second that motion.
All right, all in favor?
Jennifer
Eric,
says
aye.
aye.
Krista, aye.
Matt, aye.
Josh, aye. Okay. So that covers treasurer's report. Staff report is up next.
Okay, while this is opening up, I wanted to just remind everybody that we will need you to email on the vouchers like we have the past time. So make sure that you send that email in with your name saying that you approve the vouchers, so that we can take care of those. All right, this isn't working. Hold on 1 second, everybody. I'm having a little technical difficulty here. Give me 1 second, and I will hopefully be able to do this. There it is. Okay. Let's go back to here, and let's go to share screen. There we go. All right, so staff report. You can see here our list of programs that we've postponed has grown. We're trying to do some things online. We are trying to do some things differently, but we are getting to the point now where we're starting to look at reopening things. We are anticipating phase 2 coming with the state and with Island County also being, I think it was yesterday. Island County was one of the 10 counties that was identified that could potentially jump ahead and move to phase 2 based on how we had been performing. So I will be tracking that very closely. I am meeting every week now with directors from Snohomish, Whatcom, Island, Skagit, and San Juan, just to kind of go through, hey, what are we doing? What does phase 2 mean? What does phase 3 mean? What's everybody seeing? What's everybody doing? And why are you doing it that way? What's your rationale? So we are looking at all of that and moving forward on that. But these are kind of things we've been talking about and looking at. Some things are postponed, and we're looking at potential offerings future in the summer. When we can get to phase 2, we can do up to 5. That's a really small class, but we can do maybe some of the individual type classes like dog nose work where it's one-on-one. So there's some things we can start to bring back at that point, and we're going to be working very diligently to try and do that in a responsible and good manner. We're also looking at adult co-ed softball registration, which is at this point likely to be postponed. But we are looking at how to put that out there to the community to give them an offering of some sort. That looks like it could be in phase 3. And if we stay on track with 3 weeks, that could happen late June. So we'll see where that ends up happening. We are working with the triathlon being canceled. We are doing a virtual triathlon. We are waiting for insurance input on the swim event. We've done some tweaking with that so that we are making sure that we are working with them on that. I think, Carrie, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe it is at the point now where they are comfortable with it. If we're not putting out buoys and saying this is where you can swim, and we're saying that they have to, if you are doing a swim in open water or somewhere, you need to have somebody on deck watching you or a spotter with you in the water on a kayak or in a boat. And then we're offering alternative events to that event. So if you can't do the swim, you could go on a rowing machine. You could go on an elliptical or do something like that to compensate for that. And we're going to give specifics on what those events are so that everybody's doing the same distance. This is basically, in my understanding, more of a participation event rather than a timed competitive event at this point. Carrie, any comments on that?
Yeah, no, I think you're right that it's more about keeping everybody engaged in some fashion and keeping people training, hopefully, but keeping people connected with our race in some way. It's not going to be a big money maker this year.
Yeah, are we refunding, or have we refunded people's money, or are we keeping their registration fees or part of it, or what?
Right. So that's a good for the looking at the your treasurer's report from earlier. One thing to note is that a lot of rough refunds are going to be coming down the pike pretty soon.
This conference is no longer being. This conference will now be recorded.
Apologies.
There will be the registered participants, which are about 100, will be given the opportunity to either have refunds or transfer to next year, or a partial refund and a partial transfer to this year's race or if they're feeling magnanimous, they can just donate the money. But I foresee a lot of refunds coming back. So we had about $7,000 in revenue so far, and I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of that goes right back out.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. There's also several classes that were canceled or they were postponed, and those are probably going to be refund situations too. Yeah, so pretty much 100% refunds if that's what they've requested.
But people are given the opportunity to have their funds held over for next year, correct? If they wish?
Yes.
Yes, so that will impact next year's budget. So it kind of spreads the hurt over 2 years, but it wouldn't be as bad this year.
Okay. We are also moving forward and looking at swim lessons and swim team registration. We've postponed that. We are getting some better news from Useless Bay that it's looking better, that they are starting to prep to open the pool for the summer. So things are moving forward, and we're hopeful. It may be a smaller lesson program, but hopeful that we have some sort of lesson program. And we did do an online art workshop for kids. And then if you see here, there's a screenshot of the last day on the Zoom meeting where the grandparents could come in and see what the kids had made. And so it was nice little event that we had there. Facilities and grounds. We've been mostly trying to control expense as best we can. We've been operating as normal. Basically, right now we're doing a lot of fertilizing, mowing, weed eating. We had significant vandalism, tagging in the skate park. We did meet with the sheriff. We had everything cleaned up before lunch, so there was some looks like designs, initials maybe, and some words that I won't repeat here, but those were cleaned up pretty much immediately, as quickly as we can clean it up, and was photographed and shared with the police. So it's been pretty windy the past week. We've had a few trees down across trails, and we've done some trail cleanup as well. But our guys, mostly right now, we're just working hard on the machines, mowers, weed whackers, just keeping up with the day-to-day in the park. Grass is growing at its highest clip right now, and we're struggling to keep up, ongoing. What I've been doing, I've been continuing to monitor the ongoing restrictions and the plans with the state phases of COVID-19. I've been on. There's a King County, Pierce County directors group that I've been on. There's a couple of there's one up by us that I'm on, and there's a WRPA one that I'm going to now as well. We discuss successes, issues, what kind of problems we're having. We're basically on par and mirroring what everybody else is doing. I haven't received many concerns, but those concerns I've had, when I've responded and talked to the person, they've been understanding and very, very accepting of what we're doing when we move forward. The big one I have tomorrow, I'm looking at what is in phase 2 versus phase 3. I have I have already received the spreadsheet from Bellingham as to what they're planning to open in phase 2 and what they're planning to open in phase 3, and I'm looking to do a lot of that. Our concerns are, part of me is and I know Tom agrees with this. Part of me is that if we're going to open up the gates, we should open up everything. Because we won't be able to control it once we open up the gates. There may be some things that I look at separately from that and kind of keep that out, but I know Bellingham right now is looking at opening their skate park and their pump track, but keeping their playgrounds closed in phase 2, opening up their basketball, sport courts and stuff in phase 3, playgrounds in phase 3. So but that's a discussion I want to have, because Bellingham's a big city and they have their pool right now. All their pool staff is working for them as park ambassadors. So they're out in the parks, talking to people, redirecting them. If they go into areas that are closed, they're saying, hey, this area is closed, you need to move out of here. So they're employing people to do that. We don't have that luxury. Our guys are not able to do that. So I'm trying to look at this in not just, in a vacuum, but in like, how does it work for us, while still maintaining everything that, and trying to keep pace with what everybody else is doing and letting people recreate when they can. The state plan has it at 5 maximum as a group in phase 2. That when I'm reading through all of that, it's looking to me as still very passive recreation oriented, hiking trails, walking, playing on a field with a group of guys, and that's why the skate park to me is a consideration. The pump track to me is a consideration. Those are areas where it's a non-contact. You can separate. We can put it on the community to be responsible for policing themselves and say that. But I want to sit down with the directors, again, that meeting is tomorrow, and go through all of that and listen to what they're saying, what they're seeing, and what they're doing. So that's an ongoing discussion, and that takes up a lot of the time that I've got in my day. Progress is happening. Go ahead.
Can I ask a specific question about that?
Sure, go ahead.
You were talking about phase 2 and phase 3, and I think that's great. Look forward and figuring out what we're going to do. But phase 1, all of those park districts that you mentioned, San Juan, Snohomish, Pierce, Skagit, North Whidbey, Island County, state parks, all opened on May 5th to traffic and parking areas.
Not all of them, Matt, not all of them opened. They opened certain areas for parking. Not all of them opened parking. Some of them opened some parking areas. Some of them opened partial parking.
Okay. But the parks themselves are open to traffic.
Not all of them.
Park that I can find, the gates are still closed as of May 5th, and it's 10 days later. So my strong feeling is we should open the gates absolutely as soon as possible. And I'd like to find out why we wouldn't open them.
It's the same reason we had before, Matt. It's the reason we kept them closed was that when we open those gates, we are loosening the throttle, opening it wide open, and people can come in and park and go. We have a huge amount more of space for people to park and come into the park and use everything in the park. When we have those gates closed, we control that throttle. Once we open them, and that's what I'm saying is, if we open the gates, part of me wants to open everything up and just say, hey, maintain social distancing, because at that point we have no control. We can put up a fencing around things. People just walk right by it. It's the throttle. It's the control of traffic in the park, and that's how we're able to control it. Other areas are doing that. State parks have closed off certain areas of parking. State parks have closed off other parks, districts, and park agencies, cities have kept certain parks closed to parking and to vehicle traffic. It's not just us.
Right. But Double Bluff opened the parking lot. Joseph Whidbey opened the parking lot. South Whidbey opened the parking lot. Skagit's parking lots are open. Pierce's parking lots are open. Snohomish parking lots are open, and we're still closed. I just think we're doing a disservice to our constituents. And when we did it before, I get that we were interpreting the governor's guidelines, and some of that was pretty clear. He issued the guidelines associated with phase 1 seemed crystal clear to me on outdoor recreation. He says specifically that we need to reopen those things, and that springtime in Washington, mental health and wellness of our citizens, and the state parks opened as a result. So, like I said, I need to hear some more compelling reason than we just don't want people to come in the park because it's out of control. That's just our normal situation in the park. We don't have huge, massive parking areas, right? I mean, it's not like it's completely, free for all. I think it's just a heck of a lot safer to have them parking in the park than parking out in the road like they many times are.
Well, I mean,
commissioners, any other commissioners think that we should be open or no?
So I've been thinking about this quite a bit lately, and I agree. It's definitely something that we have to look at soon. Are we following at all I know Island County has ramped up their testing, and I recently heard yesterday not from the source, but from an Island County commissioner, my ex-mother-in-law. I guess they did 900 tests and not one has been positive in Island County recently out of 900 tests. And so that got me thinking to the fact that, okay, if, I understand like why we closed the gates. I still think it was the right call initially when this happened, but okay, what is it going forward? What does it look like? Can we open the gates sooner than, Snohomish County does, or a different parks district? I don't know. But it's just something that I think we should definitely look into, given the numbers that are coming out with all the testing that they're doing. I know they'll be at South Woodby tomorrow. My daughters are going. I'm going to go get tested. But just the fact that when I heard that out of 900 tests, we don't have one positive, that just kind of got me thinking about our direction and if we're following those Island County numbers that they're doing.
Yeah, to your point though, those other park districts opened on May 5th as part of phase 1.
Yeah, but
they didn't know, Matt. You're talking about a blanket statement saying they opened. But you're not talking about is they didn't open all their parking. So we didn't open all our parking. We were already at where they went, what they opened to.
Specifically, they didn't open camping. Most of them still restrict camping. None of them are open for program.
They didn't. I'm telling you, I've talked to the directors multiple times in the past 2 weeks. There are certain areas where, yes, they have open parking. There are other parks that Skagit, that Snohomish, that Whatcom, they're keeping the parking lot closed on certain parks for the same reason we do. It's their bigger, it's their community-based park where everybody comes when it's sunny. When we had 84-degree weather, if we'd had those gates open, we would have been overwhelmed with people. It would have been nuts in there. Now, past week or so, it's been much quieter. It's been our normal spring. It's been fine. That was my concern. Here's what I want to do. I want to open it up and not have to close it again. I want to open it up and leave it open and let people come and play. I don't want to do this. This is not something that the staff and I want to do. But I look at this as I want to be able to open it up and go, okay, we're open. This is what we're opening. It's all open. Or say we're opening everything but the playgrounds, or we're opening everything but the playgrounds and these 2 bathrooms because we just can't keep them clean. So we're just going to open 1 bathroom. Whatever we end up deciding to do and whatever ends up being open, when we open those gates, I want to make sure that I don't have to come back in 2 weeks and go, yeah, no, we got to close them again because it's just getting overwhelmed. I think that
any other commissioners have thoughts on?
Yes. So this it will continue to come back down to the numbers. It is a numbers game. Governor Inslee has made that very clear that it's about the statistics. We have worked very hard as a community and very hard as a county to get our statistics down. Our Island County commissioners drafted an amazing and very compelling letter to Governor Inslee that allowed us to apply for a variance to move into phase 2. And hopefully that will be coming yet this week or early next week, well ahead of schedule. That is imperative for our retailers and for our restaurateurs. If we start opening too quickly, right? So we're going to get people that are coming over from Snow King and they're going to come over and they're going to play here and then it's going to come back to the statistics again. So can our retailers and our restaurants afford a shutdown because the stats get skewed? It's a big picture.
So because outdoor recreation was one of the first things that Governor Inslee encouraged people to do and opened up, I feel that, yes, it is a numbers game, but for phase 2, whenever Island County goes into phase 2, we should open the gates.
And that's not. I'm not saying I'm against that.
Yeah.
I'm saying that to me, that's when that happens. And so when I looked at when we got the last statement from Governor Inslee saying, they're opening state parks and this is what's happening, I looked at what we had done prior, and when we talked to the state parks reps, That's exactly what they were doing. They were looking at certain areas and going, we're keeping parking closed here. We're going to keep parking closed in this part. That's what we did. There wasn't any real difference from what we were already doing. So when I look at phase 2, that's what I'm looking at. When we hit phase 2, that's when I see gates should be open and we should be opening some of the features. That's what I want to kind of sit down with the other directors and go, what is opening? What is closing? What are you guys thinking? What are you seeing? And what's your rationale?
And what are the numbers that are going to be allowed in phase 2 as far as how many can gather?
Well, phase 2, they've said it's 5 people. So and I've got the chart from the state somewhere. I can try and pull it up at some point, but the chart, I can send it out to everybody. But the chart, actually, here, let me see if I can get to it really quick. But the chart from the state,
you're correct. It's 5 in phase 2 and it's 50 in phase 3.
Yeah, it goes up to 50. I just wanted to kind of take a look at it really quick if I had it handy, which I don't know if I do. No, I don't know if I do. Shoot.
Doug, I just put a link to it on in the chat box.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. So the phased approach. Excuse me. So you can see here. Minimize so I can read it. Phase 2 is continue to stay home, stay healthy. In recreation, we had some outdoor recreation now: hunting, fishing, golf, boating, and hiking. Okay. When they opened those things up, that's what I looked at and said. And when I was talking to the other directors, I basically listened to what they were saying. What are you opening? Well, nobody was opening playgrounds. Nobody was opening anything. A lot of the parking areas were staying closed. A lot of the parking vehicle access to certain areas was staying closed. So I was like, okay, this is what we're already doing. Looking at phase 2, continue to stay home, stay healthy. Okay, so again, all outdoor recreation involving fewer than 5 people outside your household. Camping, beaches, etc. Okay, so camping, state parks has actually pushed that back even farther now. I don't believe they're going to be opening camping until, even if phase 2 opens up, I don't think they're opening camping until the end of June now, from the last discussion I had with them. But again, these are both passive recreation type activities. Okay, now we already let people, if they come in with their family and want to kick a soccer ball around, we don't interfere with that. Go ahead, do it. Great, awesome. That's recreation. That's going to continue in this. The things I'm looking at in here and the things I want to determine are skate park, pump track kind of activities that are individual, non-contact sports that, they're using a space. They're kids that know how to stay away from each other. The younger kids, this phase 3 is where I see playgrounds right now, basketball court, sport court kind of activities, because those are contact. So you're actually having contact with somebody else. And that's where I see those happening, are starting back up again. So that's kind of what I'm looking at with all of this and trying to understand. But yeah, I kind of see the gates opening up in phase 2. That's kind of my initial gut reaction was, okay, we're in phase 2. You can meet with people outside your family, up to 5 people at a time. If you want to come with your 2 buddies and meet with your 2 buddies at the park and kick a soccer ball around, throw a frisbee around, you can do that. You want to go to the skate park, you can do that. So all of that is what I'm looking at in phase 2. But that's kind of what I'm trying to evaluate is, when to do that. And we are open, and we show that everywhere we can that we're open. So I have had people question that, and I've talked to them, and as soon as I talk to them, they're like, oh, great, I can just park at the high school and walk in, no problem. Yeah, I mean, it's once we get to phase 2 is what I was thinking when we would be reopening gates and looking at what to open inside as well.
I just realized that the governor opened state parks to day use, and all those parking areas, the state parks that are open to day use in phase 1.
They were.
You're talking about.
They
You're
weren't,
talking
though.
about another expansion to the park, like the pump track, the courts, and all that. And phase 2, I agree. I just think we got to talk about opening the gate.
Matt, Matt,
gate.
the parking area in some state parks is still closed. It's not every single state park.
I would say we can go through the list on the state parks website. It's a majority of those state parks are open with parking open.
They have closed
Whidbey and South Whidbey.
Okay, so I don't think we're going to come to agreement, Matt, because I'm talking with these guys on a weekly basis. They're showing up at our meeting. They're telling me they've got parking areas closed on certain parks and they're not letting vehicles in. And they're doing that specifically for the same reason I am, to throttle back the flow of people in. Now, we're not preventing people from coming in, and that's not our goal. Our goal is to slow the flow. I look at this and I'm looking at phase 2. That's what I'm looking at.
So just a little input from what I'm seeing on a daily basis. If we open the gates and you still have areas that are closed, they will not, people will not stay out of them. We had a group of 25 to 30 younger adults yesterday afternoon. I was told about 6 o'clock playing Frisbee in a big group. And I've been dealing with people on the sport court every day. So if the gates are open, people will come in, they will congregate, they will be on the playground and the basketball court. We're not going to be able to stop it. So if that's what you want, I'm all for it. But we are going to be flooded. I can tell you that.
Fort Casey is only open for the hiking trails. All of the fields are closed. Yeah, there's parking there.
But access to the park, we can leave what we want to have closed. Like we can wrap tape around it. We can do all those kind of things.
We do that, Matt. They tear it down and walk in. That's Tom.
I deal with this every single day. It's very frustrating.
I get it, but I mean, we deal with that during normal course of events, right? When you got something closed for some reason, people still go over the barrier sometimes.
Yeah, not like it's been lately. Every week, people are done. They're tired of this. So I've been asking Doug the last 3 weeks, open the gates, open everything, because it's getting really old.
Okay. Well, does anybody have any other comments on this?
Yeah, I like the opening of the gates during phase 2, and then thinking about certain things recreationally, like basketball courts, for example. I don't necessarily know that exiting those things off is a good move for multiple reasons. One, that you've already said, that it's hard to police, it's hard to enforce. Social distancing, if people are doing it, they're doing it. If they're not doing it, they're not doing it. I'll use basketball as an example. There's not too many times that I've seen a full court game going on. Not to say that it doesn't happen, but a lot of times people just want to go up and shoot with their buddy, or they want to shoot with a parent or whatever. And I would hate to eliminate opportunities like that because we're thinking of groups that may or may not actually exist. They may come, they may do that. That's not to say that they're not doing it elsewhere as well. I'm of the mindset that you can't police all that, and I wouldn't expect anybody to do that. On the same token, as I've said before, I don't like to penalize people that are doing it the right way. And people need outlets right now. They need their parks more than any other time in my eyes. So phase 2, I would say open without limitations.
Okay.
Or think about some of those limitations that we're putting in there.
Oh, we're thinking about any limitations we put in. We think about this is the majority of what I'm discussing at any of these meetings is why are we opening this or not opening this, or what is this? Why is this being kept closed, and how can we do this? And are we going to need to put in because we can't get hand sanitizer, so how do we communicate to people that they need to bring their own hand sanitizer? We've got bathrooms open so they can wash their hands, but it's not done lightly or without thought. This is done with a great deal of thought and a great deal of investigation. And you know, I will continue to do that through all the phases, whatever decisions are made. You know, this is hard. I know all of us would rather open everything up and have it be able to be open and have everybody be able to use everything. I don't know that we can do that, and that's something that I'll discuss, and I'll send something out to everybody as to when I finally get a final read on what I think is the best way to go. But Tom makes a great point, and you know, Eric, you make a great point as well. It's like, if we can't control it, we should just put it on them. You know, maybe we just say, hey, we're going to open up everything in phase 2. It's up to you to police yourself. If you, you know, we will not have hand sanitizer there. We can't supply it. We're cleaning the bathrooms already twice a day. That's more than what State Parks is doing. I can tell you that. So maybe in phase 2, that's what we're doing. And that, to me, I mean, would be probably the easiest answer for us as a staff, because we can't patrol it. We can't stop it. So it's one of those things that, you know, and if it's going to constantly be an irritation and a source of extra work for our staff right now, our staff can't afford to do that. We're mowing and weed eating all the time. I mean, the only thing I could possibly see that I would probably keep I would go to like a no reservations at this point until we have anything set up. Is there's no big events and no reservations. Period. Yeah, you know, 5 or less. Use whatever you want. Come on in, but know that you're responsible for bringing your own stuff and pack it in and pack it out and keep it clean. And we don't have any sanitizer, so you know, we're cleaning the bathrooms, and that's the way it is. So that may be where we go with phase 2. I mean, I've considered that multiple times, and that's kind of the way I'm looking.
You guys have done a great job communicating, but that seems like the other part of this is, yeah, it's personal responsibility, but that doesn't mean we as a parks, you know, organization can't recommend, much like beaches and other places around the United States. Here's what we'd like you to do. That doesn't mean everybody's going to follow it, just like people tear down signs that you put up. I understand that. But it seems legitimate, like on the playground, for example. I'm envisioning, you know, a sunny day when all of a sudden you have a ton of parents arriving and everybody wants to be there at the same time. And that's not something you police, not something you can anticipate necessarily, a very creative day or weekend to weekend. But you could also have something there that says, can you please follow these rules? And that's not to say everybody's going to be doing it, but I think those recommendations might be part of the solution as well.
Well,
I'm interested to hear what you find out when you go to what other parks are planning in that regard, because I'm sure that they're in the same boat.
Yeah, no, a lot of them are, and a lot of them are looking at, I mean, most everybody that I talked to had playgrounds in phase 3. A lot of them had skate parks in phase 3. Basketball courts were all in phase 3. Sport courts are in phase 3. Phase 2 was, you know, basically maybe a skate park, some of them, and a pump track, and trails, and maybe some open field space. You know, that's what I heard at both meetings, and that's what I'm going to readdress tomorrow at the meeting is, okay, so what's everybody thinking now? I mean, frankly, from my point of view, the easiest answer for us as a staff is to say, we're opening the gates, use your common sense, follow the governor's directive. That's easiest for us to do. It's less headache for me, less headache for Tom and his crew. It's also, but it's what should we be doing, not just what's easiest. And that's the question that I want to keep in mind is, you know, a 5-year-old or a 4-year-old or a 3-year-old kid playing on a playground doesn't understand social distancing. He sees another kid on the playground, he wants to go play with them, you know, and now they're potentially not high risk. I heard there's a potential link to another disease that might be it, but do we say, okay, since that's the case, we're going to hold that back to phase 3? And that's kind of what I want to have that discussion with other park directors and hear what they're hearing. But this gives me good information to take back to that and go, hey, here's what I'm hearing from my commissioners, from my community. They would like me to just open it up and leave it up to them to do it themselves. And quite frankly, I was planning at least most of that to be open phase 2, possibly a couple of things kept closed for phase 3, and just fence those off as best we can and have our guys just be like they are now and say, don't police it. You don't have to kick them out. If they go in there, just tell them, hey guys, you know, you're not supposed to be in here. I got to close this up. And if they refuse to leave, just walk out and call the sheriff and have the sheriff deal with it if he has time. That's kind of what I was thinking we would do, but we can also just open everything up and be done with it. So it's kind of where I'm going to look at it, and I will send something out to the entire board when I have that conversation, after I have that conversation, and see where everybody's looking at this point. But I did have a meeting on Monday where that was discussed, and that was more metro-based, Seattle, Tacoma, and they were all talking about doing similar type things, is keeping things locked down as much as they could, playground-wise, and maybe opening up some other stuff. So we'll have that conversation again tomorrow, and I'll put something together and put a plan out.
Is there any other commissioner who thinks we should open the gates now? That's me.
Not now. We're right on the cusp of going into phase 2. That order should come down within the next few days. I think we should just be patient.
I agree.
I agree with Jennifer.
I agree also. Wait for phase 2 and readjust after that.
Okay. All right. So moving on, staff report. We are continuing to work on site plan review and the small water system management plan. I have talked with the sheriff, the fire district, and the school district about our access plan for the campground. The only objection came from the school district, so I am going to revisit that with Dr. Joe to get specific details as to why there is an objection and what the specific objections are, so that we could potentially address those. The objection was for security reasons. They didn't want, you know, all the camping traffic driving through there, which I don't understand, because that's been an access road for our park since I've been here. So I don't understand how that changes anything. But it is an opportunity for them as an agency to address that access. We do have an easement, and it is attached to that property, so that makes perfect sense as an entranceway for us. So we'll address that and keep going on that road. The Waterman property, Jennifer and Josh and I had a good meeting with Deborah Waterman. We've talked through everything. I have contacted the title company, and we've had the easement attached to the title report, so now we've got shown access on that. I am still hounding our appraiser to get the final appraisal from him. I was told yesterday in a phone call that he was waiting on his forester to get the forestry report finalized, and he was reviewing that as it was coming in, and once he had that completed, he should have that out to me. He said he was anticipating that I would have the appraisal in my hands tomorrow. I do have 2 appraisers lined up to do a review appraisal, and then we could start to really move forward. Decisions on board meetings. I am looking at phase 2, hopefully opening up in the next couple of days, looking at going back to what we were doing before we went on Stay Home, Stay Healthy, where I was actually sitting in the office for these meetings, not sitting at home. And that would give the opportunity to have a location for the meeting, and then the board could stay remote. We could then have our remote meeting, but also have the ability for people to show up at a place and have an open meeting, and that then satisfies the open meeting law, and then we can start to make decisions and move things forward on certain things again, like the MOU with the South Wayview Parks and Aquatics Foundation that I'm sitting on and waiting until we have the chance to approve. So that's kind of what I'm looking at with that, is that's a way we can start to move this down the road and continue moving forward. I did send out an email last week on not pursuing grants this cycle, mostly due to the timeline and the bandwidth. With all the stuff we've got going on with COVID, with all the stuff we've got going on here, it's a tight timeline. I did have a discussion with Danielle Bishop and Matt and I had an email exchange regarding potentially doing a pool application for Land and Water Conservation Fund. I recommended against doing that. I don't feel that the application would be competitive, simply because we don't have enough information on what we're doing. When my conversation with Danielle Bishop, she did agree with me. Does everybody know Danielle? So Danielle works for Whidbey Camino Land Trust, so she does these grants a lot. I have a lot of experience listening to these grants.
Not anymore, Doug.
Oh, she doesn't? Okay. But she used to work for them and do these grants, so she is familiar with the process. So she and I were on the same page, understanding, hey, this is premature on this. Would be nice if we could, but because we were talking about putting something on the agenda today for approval, which we could do, which I said, hey, if we have to, we can always do that in June or July once we're able to take action, because that particular document is not necessary until you get to the final review of the grant. But Danielle was going to redirect into more private foundation type grants to do feasibility studies and that kind of thing for a pool. So that conversation went kind of that way. I know, ideally it would be nice to have that, money, but I don't think we're ready to go down that road yet.
You've seen a lot of grants being put on hold in the education world. As I look through grant opportunities, there's a lot of them are just being put on hold for a time period. So yeah. I'm just curious. I can't imagine people are going, okay, we want to have gatherings to talk about this potential grant.
Right, and that's part of it, Eric. It's like that whole. We did have a survey that we did on the pool, and we did have a good positive response on that. And we have the foundation that is a public entity, a publicly grouped entity that is public input as well. But we really haven't had a design that we can sit out in the public eye and review and have public input on and have people come in and say, yeah, I love it. Yeah, I don't like it. This is what I see. Could we get letters of support? Sure, we probably could. But, there's a lot there that could be done to get it to a higher level and make it much more competitive and much better. And the flip side is also one of the bigger things that I said in my email was the idea of matching funds. So if we're going for a $500,000 grant, we're having to match that with $500,000. Excuse me, I'm sorry. Actually, right now, I think they've approved a waiver right now to go to a 25% match. So for $500,000, we'd need to match like $250,000 with that. But where is that money coming from? Like, are we going to go to the community and ask for donations right now when there are so many people that are on unemployment and struggling to get back to work? Are we going to go do a bond issue to fund that? That's a big question mark, and we've built up a lot of really good reputation and really good equity in our community that we are very responsible with this kind of thing. I don't think it's the time to push that envelope as well that way. But yeah, this grant cycle has already been pushed back a month. It would not shock me if they pushed it back a year and they just went to a reverse cycle for next year. I don't have any information. That's just my gut. I don't think I would be surprised if that happened. So, anything else that I have? We're still on limited agenda this month. I'm hoping next month we can actually start to bring some stuff in because then we can hopefully do an approval to go forward on the Waterman property purchase if we're ready for that. We can do the MOU. We can do other things that that could come up in the interim and start talking about these things again. So the other okay, and then the only other thing I had was we're going to do our 4th open mic night this Saturday that I'll be hosting from right here live in my living room. We did have an article in the newspaper, and we did have a little kind of snafu. So one of our performers last time played Hotel California. Well, the Eagles are very aggressive about their copyright, and we got slapped with the copyright block on the video. But YouTube has this wonderful thing where you can go in and say, edit this portion of the video out. So if we had a song that was copyrighted, we were blocked for it, all we had to do was edit it out and put it back out there, and it's fine. We are not monetizing this, so we are not asking people for donations. We are not asking people to pay us money to play in this. This is all for free. So as long as we are not monetizing, I as a musician feel comfortable with that. If we started to say, okay, we're going to put ads on this and make it, make money off of it, that's when I think we get in trouble, really. And hopefully we're only going to do this a few more times, and then we're going to be back to real life, and we won't have to worry about it anymore. So another one this Saturday. There was an article in the newspaper. If you didn't see it, I'll see if I can click on it and open it up for you. But it was kind of a cute article, and we've had guys from Vancouver, BC, from New York City. So it's been a really, really positive kind of little thing that we've been doing. And along with our other programs, we had another program online last night. Carrie, are you still on? You want to talk a little bit about the program from last night?
Sure. Last night we had Mary Beth. Oh goodness, Mary Beth and Jack. They're authors of the book Hiking Close to Home, which just happened to be the title and happens to be very appropriate for right now. So they did a presentation on their book and hikes that are available on Whidbey, Fidalgo, and Guaymas Islands. So yeah, just a little online presentation.
Good enough. Okay, so yeah, you can see here, there's the article. It was just a short little piece that they wrote. We had a good time with it, and I think that we can continue to try and do these kinds of things as needed. But this is just a starting point, and hopefully we'll get back to live and being in person. I prefer that rather than this. So, any other thoughts? Any other questions, concerns?
Just how are signups going for summer programs? Are people? I know the swim stuff is on hold for a little bit, but just in general, how is
nobody's signing up for anything? Yeah, people are holding close to their money, and everything is uncertain. And I've kind of paused on promoting things very aggressively right now, because what was happening is we'd take in money and then have to postpone and kind of carrying that money along. And so, but nobody's signing up for anything. As soon as we open up swim lessons in particular, I suspect that they will fill up to whatever capacity we have pretty quickly. I don't think we're going to miss the boat on anything there. One key component of our summer programs is a lot of the people joining our programs are people visiting their grandparents, and their grandparents sign them up for summer camp or a day camp, so that it's not too overwhelming to have them all entertain them constantly. So I foresee that maybe people won't be visiting the grandparents as much this year, might be discouraged. So I think that even what we do offer, I think we will have less participation, except for swimming. I suspect that'll.
In my sphere, Carrie, I'm getting asked weekly about the adult co-ed softball. So thanks for a little glimmer of hope there that I can pass along.
Yeah, we're really trying, and I reached out to the team managers last week and the umpires, and I said, when we do it, our hope is to offer it. When we do it, there's going to be a bunch of safety measures in place that your team is going to have to go along with. And if you don't want to go along with those things, you don't want to play in the league. And another concern is that almost every single one of our umpires is in a vulnerable demographic. But so far they are interested. If people are wanting to get out, so I may have enough umpires. I might not, and we'll have to adjust.
Okay.
Yeah, so when I threw that out there to the team managers, I believe four teams indicated that they wanted to come back.
Good.
Which is pretty.
Okay. Anything else? Any other questions?
Nope.
Please don't forget to send that email in about the vouchers.
Okay.
Okay.
Josh,
Get that off you.
nothing else. You can adjourn the meeting.
All right. Nice seeing everybody. Have a good week. Stay safe. I'll adjourn the meeting at 6:54.
Thank you. Good to
Thanks.
see you.
Bye.
Nice.